Extraordinary care at Neighbors Emergency Center is one of those things you can always depend on. We're here for you with clean, private exam rooms, no wait time, and board-certified ER physicians. Be seen now at Neighbors Emergency Center.
Hi, thanks for clicking play to hear this podcast, which I think you're going to find very interesting. My name's Grego. You hear me on the spot. I'm on all the time from 6 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night. I'm here with producer Terry.
Hello, and yes, he's on all the time.
I've known Terry for 20 plus years. He was my intern back in the day at Rock 101 KLOL. Now he's the production director over here at Entercom Houston that houses a multitude of radio stations that you know and love. And today, a podcast that I think you're going to find very interesting. We have a gentleman with us. Well, gentleman's a strong term. We have a guy with us named Anthony Toneman Black, otherwise known as Toneman. Toneman. And I guarantee you, if you've seen concerts in Houston, you know Toneman. You know Tony. He has been at every show in Houston for how many years now, Tony? By the way, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I'd say at least professionally, 21 years. And then in my private life, every year before that.
Yeah. Are you from Houston originally?
No, I'm from Pennsylvania.
Interesting.
From Pennsylvania. Now, you see Toneman at concerts because Tone works for, I guess you work for Live Nation. Is that what it is?
No, our company works for Live Nation. Yeah. Our company, Upstage Center, does all the labor at all the shows. So we're the guys there at 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in a.m.
You're what they call in the business local crew.
Yes.
Yes.
Not a roadie.
No,
We're stagehands.
Oh, roadie is a bad term?
Roadie is a guy that's on the road.
It's a traveler.
We travel, but to other cities around the state.
That's cool, because I didn't realize, roadie was like... So the proper term for you is what?
Stagehand.
A stagehand.
Stagehand. Do y'all go by local crew anymore? Or
we do. Okay. We always get, we get crew shirts at night, and they always says local something.
Crew.
Yeah, a stagehand. All right. Yeah. So Toneman is a stagehand, legendary stagehand
for years
in Houston for years and years. And just recently, we were up at the Iron Maiden show, and we were not in the Wood Forest Club, but the old thing that used to be House of Blues. I don't even know what they call it now.
The lounge.
We were sitting in there, and I said to him, we were just having a conversation. I said, it would be a cool interview because so many people like to see bands perform in Houston when they come, but it would be cool to see and hear your perspective and some of your stories, having been backstage with these bands over the years. I guarantee you've seen far many concerts than probably Terry and I have seen because that's your job.
Yes.
Nightly.
Sometimes I do 3 in a day. 3
concerts in a day?
Wow. Sometimes, yes.
And
I do the invoicing for other cities outside Houston too. So,
but see, we used to see you at all of the rock concerts, but then on top of that, you were going to the Celine Dion's and the Chers and the other concerts that were coming to town at that time.
Yes, now it was funny. We would think about all the rock shows coming up, and then every once in a while we would get confused and all of a sudden, why do you have us working on Saturday? Well, there's a Hispanic show in town. Right. We didn't think about because we didn't. So then you have to start reading the paper and seeing where you're going to be working.
Uh-huh.
Now they do it all on computer. Everything back then was looking up stuff on the internet.
A conversation that Terry and I had yesterday when we were talking about sitting down to have a conversation with you, and Terry recalls a story about Metallica coming to the Woodlands years ago.
That's right. Metallica, I remember in the late 90s, this was probably before the folding chair St. Anger stuff, but right before then, they came in like 98, 99 to the Woodlands, something like that. And and I remember for some reason just an overall it was a bad vibe to me just because of certain things. But I remember this one particular incident that I didn't know. I've never heard the full, and maybe who knows? Maybe you were the one that told me some of it at the time. The kid, there was a kid like in the very orchestra pit, the front pit, and he got very excited. Now he jumped up, and the story that I heard was he jumped up, and when he jumped up, up, he, pumped his fist, and he accidentally hit the mic stand, which then hit James Hetfield in the face. And is this okay? Yes.
Yeah, take it from here.
Take it from here.
I was not officially working that. I was working the after party.
Okay.
So that's when I ran James and Jerry Cantrell out of the bathroom because I need to use it.
Oh, they were doing things in the bathroom?
No, they were sitting there just talking, having a conversation. It's like watching a baseball game, and they always show the guys going up there talking.
Yeah.
And they're usually talking about, hey, so you going fishing on Saturday? And they're just talking normal.
Yeah.
Not living the life that you think they're living.
Right. Okay. So they're just a couple of regular guys.
That's all they were doing.
In the bathroom, and you needed to use the
facilities. I said, I may stink it up, guys. You need to. They said, okay.
Wow.
Nice.
You smoked out James Hetfield and Jerry Cantrell.
Yes, I have.
That's pretty good.
Nice. Now, did he get hit in the face? Was that a thing that he got hit with the mic?
I've worked security for Motorhead.
Yeah.
And you cannot, because he eats the microphone.
Yeah.
If the microphone stand gets hit, that's our whole job, to make sure that nothing hits the microphone stand.
Well, see, apparently it angered him. They say that
he kicked him in the face.
He kicked it. Yes. Okay.
James Hetfield kicked the guy in the front
face.
row in the face that touched the mic stand.
Yeah. That hit the mic stand, that threw it into his face. And that goes back to my Rob Halford story. I was working security at Hurricane Alley. There was 4 of us. We were doing good. We were holding our own. And James Hetfield goes, hey guys, security's doing really a good job. Let's see if we can make them work harder. Then it was just a barrage of people.
He started a stampede.
Yes. And then the one guy comes over. He's falling between us. He grabs my hair, starts grabbing for anything not to hit the ground. Well, he scratched my arm, pulled my hair out of my ponytail. I'm like, and I booted him in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And the bass player come up and kicked me. And I turned around and I pointed at him. I said, they touch me, I'll do whatever I effing want. So I threw the guy out of the barricade, went out of the barricade. Of course, I felt bad because there's only 3 guys in the barricade. So I went back in there. But today, I'd have jumped on stage and kicked that bass player's ass.
That's right. Now, that was Rob Halford's bass player at Hurricane.
Who's a famous tattooist from Arizona.
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I would have to look up his name.
Yeah.
Maybe I can look that up while you're talking, but okay, so you realize that now this is when you were working security before being a stagehand. So,
correct. And
you mentioned your ponytail. So that's a tell if you've ever seen Toneman at any of the Houston concerts. He's the dude that walks around in the security or stage, upstaging shirt, and he's got the ponytail. He's a very he's a face you don't forget, and he's everywhere. When did you move into doing the stagehand work versus the security stuff?
I did security in clubs for a couple years, mainly at Hurricane Alley.
Yep.
And then 95 is when I first started the stagehand stuff. And then I got into security about the same time. Then I did security for a couple years. And then I did a couple part-time gigs here and there. And then I moved to stagehand in like 1998.
Okay.
When, I can't remember his name, country guy, played 5 shows at the Summit.
Garth Brooks?
Garth Brooks, yeah.
Garth Brooks?
Yep.
Yeah, that guy, he only had like 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah,
it's easy to forget him.
Yeah. Last time he was in town, he did 8 shows.
Yeah, that's right.
So you worked for Garth Brooks.
Yeah, that was my first real time.
Yeah.
And I remember taking down motors off the chains. I was bagging 5 of them to 1 to other people. And I'm like, this is my first day. How can I do it faster than you?
Okay, motors off. So you have to kind of tell us. What's that mean?
Motors hang from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they hang from a subgrid,
right,
which is a lower truss and stuff. And what it is they're like half tons, which are light, very light. And all you have to do is unhook them. And what they do is they let little things fly. So some bands will have a entire subgrid.
Yep.
And other people just hang from the ceiling.
Okay.
Subgrids are just a little bit more intense. And that's the way the shows are going because you have to do more to get more ticket sales because they're making money from ticket sales nowadays instead of that. So that's why instead of having 15 riggers on a call, we have 30. We're doing Tool this weekend, 35.
Right. 35 riggers for Tool at Toyota Center.
Correct.
Yes.
Toyota Center, yes.
Wow. That's a lot of guys. Now, that's another specialized job that they bring in for guys that hang.
They go up to the ceiling and walk out on the beams.
Yeah, I mean...
I've been up to the ones on... I've been up through the rafters of Toyota Center, and it is quite unnerving when you realize just how high you are, yet inside at the same time.
And I've seen you run Spotlight from up there, too, right?
I've done it all.
You really have?
Except for rigging.
Yeah, you haven't...
I've done down rigging, not up rigging.
Here you go. Now, when it goes back to going back to Metallica a little bit there, and that incident that occurred, Terry and I said we need to ask Tone Man who are some of the worst roadies in the business or crews that travel with bands that this is going to be trouble. These guys don't play. They like to beat people up. I mean,
I remember that one. They had said something about we loaded them in out as fast as we could. That night of Metallica, they were like, we were just throwing stuff in their trucks, like get out. Are there better and worse than others places?
Yes, there are. But believe it or not, Metallica is one of the most professional load out.
Interesting.
Because rock bands are so much easier than bands that don't have a band. Because you have to have video walls, you have to do all this other stuff and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And showers and tubs and all that.
This is instruments and you're ready to go. And like I say, this was just the one incident. That was the only time that I remember. I mean, I remember seeing him in the Summit, everything being great, and that it was just that one time that seemed like that was a thing. Yeah, who are the ones that you've looked at that are...
It's not the bands themselves or the crews. It's the actual... Kiss is difficult to work.
Kiss is difficult?
A lot of stuff to set up.
I bet. I can imagine.
Aerosmith.
It's not because they're all New York a-holes?
No. No.
They just have a lot of stuff.
In fact,
takes one to know one.
Yes. Here's one for you. At Kiss, we were doing them back in 99, and they had their set doesn't go all the way backstage, the amp line. Mm-hmm. So they're like, man, we need to do something with these carts because there wasn't a lot of room backstage back then. So I said, well, how about we flying from the ceiling? And they all looked at me. They go, how much do your carts weigh? The guy says, oh, they're under 1,000 pounds. Well, shit. Sorry. That's what they did. Yeah. They hung two of the set carts from the battens that they use for the opera.
Wow.
So it was a way to gain space. And that's I look beyond the box. Wow. I'm an outside the box thinker. Yeah. Don't hit me with a question right now. 5 minutes later, I'll come back with a great answer, and I'll help you with that stuff.
Right. I mean, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to put on a rock and roll concert or a concert of any kind for that matter that we as the viewers, the patrons, the concert goer, we don't think about. We just show up and it's beautiful and ready to rock.
Yeah,
exactly. And here it goes. Yeah. And your job begins at what, 10 in the morning? And
no, generally 8 o'clock is the median time.
8 a.m.
Yep.
8 a.m. you begin trying to put together a stage for a production, and then it doesn't end until
2 a.m. or 1 a.m.
1 or 2 a.m. after it's done. Loading
Tool,
it out.
The Sunday is loading in at 5 a.m., 5 and 6 a.m.
Wow.
Mm. Wow. I remember when Tool played the Astro Arena. One time they played
that's where I'm at today.
Is that? Oh, really? Yeah, because I remember that one because Maynard wouldn't go on stage for a while until because he was mad there wasn't a shower back there, and finally he came out. It was a great show. It was an excellent. Yeah, it was a really good show. But I remember it being postponed for a little while, and everybody. It was when Kevin Dorsey was still around because Dorsey was going backstage. He was like, "Yeah, they don't have a shower, so." So they're not gonna. He's mad. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I got to be on the air at midnight. And he was like, yeah, he's gonna go. So
yeah, they do have showers. It's just they have little locker rooms for like when they had the hockey team and the basketball teams over there.
Oh,
but they don't have showers in their dressing rooms.
Shower? Yes. Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
Now with Maynard, are there special considerations to put into effect because of his
personality?
Well, there's
particular needs.
Well, there's that, but he has, what is his affliction? He's got something that's triggered by flashing lights. He has seizures.
Oh,
okay.
And that, so he can't look straight at the audience, I believe. He performs to the side.
And I remember another drummer that faced backwards.
Yeah.
And had a mirror so you could see the crowd, but he couldn't see the crowd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Couldn't sit and look at them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maynard was in a dress and a wig when he came out that time, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to, why can't I think of right at the moment what he has? It's
epilepsy?
Epilepsy.
Is that epilepsy of some sort?
I think that's what he has.
Now, technically, I had epilepsy when I was a kid.
Really?
But it was a very light strain. My uncle, full-blown, what you would think of an epileptic.
Yeah.
But I had epileptic seizures when I was a baby. My temperature went up to 107.
That's not supposed to be good.
Yeah, but I'm still smart.
Yeah. I had an epileptic tattoo artist one time. He did a big tattoo on me and had a seizure midway through. And we had to stop for quite a while. And after that, I was like doubting the whole thing going forward, but turned out okay. He knew how to manage it. So did he just
like after he shored up, was he just continue on like, all right, let's get back to it?
Oh, it's a whole 45-minute ordeal after the seizure. Because we were talking, everything was good, and then all of a sudden he's holding the machine and it's buzzing, but it's not.
I see where that happened.
Touching me. Yeah, and he's going, it's just sitting there.
It's right here on his arm.
Right he's kind of shaking. And his girlfriend was in the room. She goes, uh-oh. She goes, he's having a seizure. He's having a seizure. And I didn't realize this. And so we have to lay him out, make sure he's okay.
Doesn't swallow the tongue.
Yeah.
The whole, yes. Wow.
We're talking to Tony Black. Everybody knows him as Toneman locally here in H-Town. And my idea for this interview with you was to have you tell us some of your more memorable experiences working as a stagehand and some security as well with bands.
Yes.
And the things that you remember most that the people that are listening would like to know about, For example, King's X, locally, a Houston band, Doug Pinnick and his crew.
I met Doug going to shows, and it was weird because all the stagehands the roadies working for the bands, were in awe of him walking up. I seen him signing 3 or 4 autographs from the roadies when he hangs out with us here and there, So that was cool. And every time they came through about a year and a half ago, and he hadn't seen me in a few years. It was really cold outside, but he gave me the wink that he still remembered me and gave me the nod that it was cool because I knew his guitar tech, who was from Aerosmith, who was Ty Teber's guitar tech that day.
Wow.
So he put on Facebook that he was coming to Houston. I said, hey, I'll come meet you. We'll hang out.
Wow.
So that's how it's such a small world that you know everybody around the world and you don't even know it.
Right, right.
So it's funny. It's great like that.
What comes to mind for you? Tell me, first, top of the mind, best story ever with a band you came in contact with. Something that happened.
This was with Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Sure.
He played Area 51 down on Richmond in Fountain View. We were the security. The door kicks in, and it's the head roadie. He goes, oh, this is going to be a great day, because he saw me. He was from Tesla, but he had worked for Guns N' Roses before.
Okay.
So this guy saw me. We go through the day. We're doing fine. We took Slash and some of his entourage to Centerfolds. Got some people on the guest list. And then the show went really good. And then this is how this ties back in to the guitar tech for Aerosmith and King's X. He was in the band that day, but I didn't know him.
Okay.
So Slash does the show. Before the show, his drummer or keyboard player says, Slash, look at these passes. And I made these passes for the show. It's an alien head with curly hair and a top hat, smoking a cigarette. Area 51, alien. He goes, man, this is cool. I'm going to have to keep it. So I tried to get his picture with him late at like 4 o'clock in the morning. He's like, dude, my eyes are burnt from all the snaps. I said, that's cool. I'll get it some other time. 9 months later, we're in L.A. Me and my buddy, Kenny Posner, we're in L.A. for the NAMM show, and Slash is signing. So, hey, let's go over there. So we walk up to him. Slash looks at me. He goes, dude, you look so familiar. Well, I made those passes for you in Houston with the... He goes, yeah, dude, those were great. I never keep anything with my likeness on it. He goes, but I kept that. In fact, I hadn't seen it in 30 days, but I saw it this morning. He had it pinned up in his bathroom.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
So the guitar tech for Ty Tabor was in the band that day, and when he came back and played with Ozzy, he was in that band, with Slash's band, opening for Ozzy.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah, and they did that together.
I'd been friends with them years. So that's where it comes back around. And that's what's more important to us. It can be the kind of music that you don't like, but you know the crew. You know, this guy's one of the best stage managers in the world. This guy's his second, and this guy's his third. The guy who's third used to work with us.
Right.
So guys in the business do move up. And they thought back at Hurricane Alley that Ronnie James Dio was going to take me on the road because he liked me so much. And then he came back a second time, and I saw him arguing with his manager on the side of the stage. He looked over, he saw me, got a big old smile, did the first 2 songs, and stopped the show and gave me a big hug in front of everybody.
No kidding.
Yeah. So then I got taken on the bus the first time. The second time, he was serving me drinks. And
We're talking about Ronnie James Dio.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
and
cool.
and then when they went, he came to town again down at the West Park Amphitheater with Motorhead. And then they were going to Corpus the next day. And I told him I'd make one of the shows. And I get down there, and I had gotten all the passes that I needed and everything. He's singing Heaven and Hell, the last song. He looks down, sees me in the pit. I was down there taking pictures. He goes, he put Tony in there. And Tony, blah, 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 blah. I'm like,
Singing the song.
singing the song.
He put your name in the song.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I had a recording of
Yeah,
that.
so do I.
Right?
On the first show, me and the stage manager, who's now a touring rigger for all the big bands out of Atlanta, he goes out and grabs a guy who Ronnie pushed down onto the floor with his mic stand. He grabs him by his hair and starts dragging him. So I scoop him up by his armpit and follow him out. And Ronnie comes behind. This is the first time ever working with Ronnie James Dio. He comes behind us singing, "They're dragging another asshole off the road, down the stage, off the stage." And I look up, I go, he's singing what we're doing.
Yeah, Ronnie had that reputation for getting angry with people in the crowd that
Moshed.
Yeah, I saw him at that little converted grocery store up in Dallas, the Skate Town or wherever
Yeah.
it was, and it was an intimate setting. But he wanted to beat the heck out of people in the front row that really didn't do much of anything. They were like, "No, it wasn't me. It was the guy behind me," and they were like innocent, but he wasn't having it, you know.
Yeah.
And God rest his soul, you know.
Yep. And then me and the stage manager, some guy was causing trouble, obviously not on legal stuff.
Mm.
And me and him ended up chasing him down the street behind Hurricane Alley. And then next time he came in, he was with the Cult down at the Eyeball.
Okay. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he got us some tickets and passes for that. So me and the club promoter, we went down there. We got some tickets, passes, and we went out and gave it to some people.
Wow.
It's not what you know, it's who you know and how you act about it. That's the thing. I don't put on an act.
No, you're as real as they come. Tone Man from upstaging, stagehand, security. What about one of my favorites is AC/DC, of course. Now,
Yes.
you got any? I've met Brian Johnson and spoken to him a couple times. Couldn't have been nicer.
Yes.
A sweetheart guy.
As a stagehand, we don't get to talk to people very often, but you get to see them up close. And I saw him 4 days before he got fired. Yeah, that was here in Houston, after Houston.
After the runaway train, where they had the set with the giant train, is that the one? Remember that? The train with the
You're asking me
locomotive?
to remember specifics, right?
I know, yeah, I know.
So,
I have a hard time with it too.
I go to movies and can't remember the movie I just saw.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about? Who are we talking about?
Beer, did you say something?
At least it's not just me.
Yeah, it happens.
Is this a problem because of technology? Our heads are so full of information we just can't store it or
Probably
remember it
because
all.
of rock and roll.
Because you were
No.
never a heavy drug
No.
user or drinker, were you?
No.
Do you drink?
Never. No.
You don't.
I don't drink.
I don't think I've ever
I was
seen
going to
you.
say, now that you mention it, of all the times I've seen him around people that are completely hammered, he's always been of sound mind. Always.
I used to drink some at Area 51 because I was without wheels. So I was either taking a taxi home or catching a ride.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but I'd never get obliterated.
Right. He's drinking today.
Yes.
Yeah. Just now.
That's where my tongue got in the way.
You've seen, I mean, for example, you know how I like to party. You've seen me drunk a bunch of times.
Yeah. I've seen it before when you played.
Yeah, when I played music myself.
yeah.
Yes, that was one of the, I still have my Grego pass.
There you
Something
go.
obnoxious.
Something obnoxious,
That's
baby.
right.
I had some of the best musicians in Houston, let me tell
yes.
you.
Oh, yeah. It was good. It was good. I have my shirt somewhere that doesn't fit anymore.
Well, I have a new shirt from the last time you started out.
That's right.
Oh.
I just, it's funny. I just don't really have the time to play. And all these other guys that are in my cover band, they all play in different bands. So everybody's busy.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things. I'm a dad. I've got commitments and a job and, a long commute. And playing in a band takes commitment. You're out practicing and then you're out on the weekends gigging and it's just more time.
Yeah, and that's where we forget certain things. Because I can't remember what tour that was.
Right.
But I do remember it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We have so much going on in our heads that people that go to work 40 hours a week don't. They think about rock and roll. Oh, it's great. Yeah, but you're not there at 1:30 in the morning loading the last truck. I've been that guy. I used to start out as a loader, and I'd end the show as a loader. We're the last ones there because we're closing the trucks. And that's the way. And that's how they saw that I was responsible. And that's how I moved up right away. Somebody gets fired, then somebody quits. Next thing I'm running the company.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened in 2008.
Good for you. I mean, everybody likes you. You know that, which is why I'm sure it helps for you to continue to go up. Who has had, in your experience over your career, like some of the biggest productions that you just dread setting up and taking down because it takes forever?
Actually, those are all set and scheduled. And you pretty much follow a schedule. You don't work more than 10, 12 hours a day, which to us, 18-hour day is short sometimes.
Do you sleep?
No, not on the last day. Usually I do the last day and then stay up the next day, make sure everything's taken care of outside of what we have to encompass, which with me is runner vans and furniture because we handle it all from our company.
Wow.
So we just can't say, well, they dropped the ball. No, it's us dropping the ball. So there's more to everything, ordering forklifts, getting fuel for the supplies. Even though Live Nation's ordered a vendor, we have to do the in-between stuff.
Oh, tough work.
We have to get a lift for Governor Perry for vet aids at the Toyota Center.
That's right, because Vets Aid is coming November 10th. It's a Sunday at Toyota. It's Joe Walsh of the Eagles thing for veterans.
ZZ Top.
And ZZ Top is going to play there. So
and there's a pre-rig the day before.
A pre-rig?
Yeah, that's where they
explain.
That's where they hang the stuff from the ceilings and get everything set for the next day. But there's also a show in town that day. Travis Scott down at Astroworld.
Yeah.
The Astroworld. Wow.
The Astroworld. And then there's a show at the Toyota Center the night before, which is Mana. Then there's a show 3 days before, which is Post Malone. Then there's a show 3 days before that, which is the Chainsmokers. And while we're all setting up for Travis Scott at the same time, and then the circus, the skating show comes in, Disney on Ice comes in the next week, while we still have shows coming in to Toyota.
And Travis Scott is because he does like a whole day festival, doesn't he?
Yeah, it takes 5 days to set up.
Yeah, he doesn't tell you.
He doesn't tell who's going to be there until real close to, exactly, the day. So how do y'all deal with that? Do y'all know, or do y'all just know, or are y'all just setting up general stages and things like that?
General stages, and we usually know stuff the day of.
Okay.
But none of my friends are going to be there.
Hey, I do give him that. I do enjoy that he did name his album Astroworld.
Yeah.
I like that he's given, props to Astroworld, and I like that he does have the thing here because he's from here. So I like that he has that big Astroworld, day that he has. But that's a lot of shows, and that's a lot of stages and things to set up. Now, in big stages like that, like I remember going to the U2 Pop Mart tour in the Astrodome, like going to the Astrodome. Did you have anything to do with Pop Mart back in like 98 or whenever that was, 96?
I was the security at the tip of the penis, we called it, because it looked like a curved penis. And I caught somebody who walked all the way in through the barricade. And when I was walking him out, I pointed at his pass to their security guard. He gave me a thumbs up, and I just escorted him out the 150 plus feet of barricade that he got through.
Wow.
And we escorted him out of the building from there.
What? And how did he get through so far? He just...
Because somebody else don't pay attention.
Oh, yeah.
I have attention to detail.
Yeah.
It's sort of like I am the messiest person you know that has OCD.
Are you?
Pretty much. See, this is written very nicely. The first one isn't.
Yeah. This one here.
My car is messy. But when I'm in catering, I clean up myself. I clean up after everybody else. I clean up the dock, bottles, and because people don't realize that they're not at home. And you aren't. Yeah. You're in somebody else's house. And if you want it to stay nice, you have to keep it nice.
And these concert venues backstage are really kind of nice. I mean, I've been to the Woodlands backstage quite a few times. Sure. I mean, it's it's not plush by any means, but it's accommodating. It's nice. There are dressing rooms with showers and
Maynard would be happy.
Maynard would, yeah, exactly. Yeah. John Fogerty was happy back there. They brought him back and stood him in the middle of us all and had him shake everyone's hand.
John Mellencamp. He to the right on the stage, upstage right, which is when you're on stage, it's all the way up there. Is the shell for the orchestra. He asked one of his guys when they was done, he goes, "What's that thing over there?" Somebody told him it was an orchestra shell. And from then on, we started covering it because he has a little particular thing that he notices things. So if it's out of place, he notices it. So now we have a curtain that goes around that.
The orchestra shell.
Which we set up for the orchestra and the symphonies out at the Woodlands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Mellencamp is known, at least in my experience, is not to be very nice guy.
Lies.
It's lies.
It's usually, don't hate me, guys, some security making their job seem more important. Mm-hmm. I've heard stories about real incidents and why they had to have certain ones, but a lot of times, I'll face the wall over here, and then when he comes out, he's all, "Hey, how you doing?" Eddie Van Halen walked up to me on the dock in 1998 and says, "Hey, man, I'm Eddie." I said, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with you on that. I think it was that show. I still have a picture on Facebook. We were at soundcheck, and we were just happened to walk out into where everybody, we're into the stands. Nobody was there. It was soundcheck. It was the middle of the afternoon. Harrison told me, he said, "Hey, turn around," and he just took a picture. And when we got it developed, I had Eddie right here on my shoulder playing, and I had Alex right here on this side, and it's the greatest picture that I've ever. I mean, it's one of my favorites. But they proceeded to be the nicest guy. It was when Gary Sharon was playing with them that time.
That was 98.
And it was, we were out at the Woodlands, and afterwards, we went backstage and took, listeners back there to meet them. And man, talk about accommodating. They were just so nice. I saw Alex, someone brought up, it was ridiculous. They brought up like 10 drum heads, and he sat there happily and was like, "Okay, here, I'll just sign them." I was thinking, oh, come on, let's stop at one. But they were very nice.
Gary Sharon was their front man.
Yeah.
So they had to really glad hand the public.
Yeah.
Don't leave us.
No.
We're going to work this out eventually.
Personally, I thought he did a great job.
Did you?
I ran spot that night. So, yeah. And Gary Sharon also played Hurricane Alley. Mm-hmm. He also played After Dark. Now, that was before they had the big hit with Wholehearted and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That lost all the rock fans, even because the women liked them. Well, if the women like them, the guys don't like them anymore. So we were taking pictures. I was taking pictures of the opening act, and their manager come out and says, "I don't want to see that camera when they're playing." Well, their opening act happened to be Alice in Chains.
Oh, man.
Before Man in the Box was a hit.
And this was at Hurricane
After Dark.
This was After Dark Club.
Yes. And we were down there, and so after the show, I got a picture of my best friend, who's gone now, Bart St. John, of him and his girlfriend with Gary Sharon and a couple other guys. Nuno Betancourt, the bass player.
Nuno Betancourt.
Yeah, because he loved Nuno.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. You get told by security or somebody that you can't take that picture. Happened to me. I used to take pictures of bands from like 88 to 92. I would just take my camera. And if they said okay, I would take pictures. Then I was taking pictures of Dangerous Toys, one of my favorite bands. I'm friends with everybody in the band. The singer is even a minister, and he married me in 2006 to my wife, who I'm not with anymore. And his new band, Broken Teeth, played my reception.
Wow.
Bobby Blotzer was there from Rat. It was the best night the club ever had on a Sunday, because I filled it full of people, and I had backstage passes to it and everything. I made laminates. I still have some of those laminates.
Wow.
But it just, everything ties together. And then Dangerous Toys, next time they came back, my buddy was telling me, he says, what you do is you bring them a picture for them. So I did that. He's like, man, this is cool. Nobody's ever done this with me. And this was their second tour. And he says, man, I saw your manager. He said, don't worry about it. He'll be running sound. So just stand to the right over here. He won't see you. Don't use a flash. I said, thanks. And that's when I started. And now I have 5 or 6 autographs on that same picture from Jason, the lead singer. And then a few years ago, he explained to me what all they were, because he quit drinking and all that time and other things and stuff. But it's, they're playing next month at Acadia. They come once a year.
What do you think about, because being someone that did that and that was a thing, what do you think about it now? Because everybody's got a cell phone and everybody takes their camera in, and now it's all just nothing but people. They won't put their camera down so you can see the show.
The bands encourage you to go on Facebook Live and broadcast it.
The pop bands do that, not the rock bands. I've seen the rock bands shut down the show. I think it was Audio Slave. It might have been. He goes, nah, put your camera down. The show's up here, not on your arm.
That's right.
And I've been out into the audience at certain pop bands, and they don't care. They don't care at all. They don't care if it's live music or if it's a tape. They just want to be dancing in their seat for $457.
Let's go back for a second to After Dark Club, which I used to run out of 101 at midnight for there was a contest that I would host at midnight and shortly after there. We'll go into that another time. But ladies of Houston would show up, and I would do all that business.
With T-shirts?
I've
been there.
Yeah, something like
bikinis.
I didn't even know you then.
Maybe. When you saw Alice in Chains there, Lane Staley was there. How was he at that point in time?
Well, they were still brand new to everything, and they all were dressed in Texas Tech gear because that's where they came from. So he had Texas Tech cutoffs, and the guys were wearing just regular clothes. And he was normal before everything sank in. That was a couple years later. But I gave them pictures when they were in town this year, back in August.
That's right.
Or July 31st. I gave them pictures. And I gave it to the guitar tech, who I've known for 20 years. And has been with all the big bands. And he said, yeah, the guys really like that. They like looking at stuff from the beginning. Some people were saying, I wouldn't show them because they're still sad about Lane. But how can you be sad at your friend passing away?
No. It's just like when Stone Temple Pilots was at Revention a few weeks ago or a month ago, whatever it was.
I was there. My buddy's the truck driver for that tour.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Jeff Gutt, their new lead singer, he did a great job. He's a phenomenal performer. He's got a great stage presence. But again, if you were a fan of Stone Temple with Scott Weiland, it doesn't matter what Jeff does.
Yes. That's where you have to separate. To me, a band, okay, say you're missing the lead singer. If the president of Exxon,
Journey.
I got that one too. The president of Exxon, if he leaves, it's still Exxon. Mm-hmm. But when you get down to one bass player who was never originally in the band, that's when you need to
kind of cut your losses. You're a cover band.
We're a tribute cover band,
correct,
of such and such
at that point.
But even if you have the basis of the singer, and usually it's the singer who's the basis of a band. If he's gone, like Rob Halford, he left, did his own thing for a little while, and then he came back, and all of a sudden they're huge. They wouldn't have been huge without him, I don't think.
Yeah. Do you remember when Warrant came to town?
Yep.
And
did the rock and roll auction?
Was that the auction? From 101?
He left from there in the back of somebody's pickup to go to backstage where the after party was.
Well, I remember the one tour, they came on their bus and they were traveling with a tattoo artist. And after I got off the air at 101, they said, hey, come over to Rick's. We're going to be there. Come see us. So I went over to Rick's. I went in the club and they weren't there. And so I went outside and the bus was in the parking lot. And I said, hi, I'm the disc jockey from 101. They said, oh, come on. I got on the bus and Janie was in the back getting tattooed from the guy that was on the road with them. And he asked me if I wanted ink. And I didn't at that moment in time.
Yeah.
But it was just so cool to, again, just real dudes.
Just hanging out, getting tattoos in the bus, offering tattoos to whoever walked up.
Yeah.
Back in the day, there was this band called Salty Dog.
Yes.
They had a couple medium-sized hits on Z-Rock.
Right.
Back in the day. And me and the bass player were talking. He was in another band. And the singer was there. And we were just talking like dudes. He was asking, I was wearing a 101 shirt. And he was asking me about the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
There we go. We were talking comic books. That just popped into my head. Thank you. Which happens a lot. And then the girl starts asking the singer, oh, man, I love your velvet pants. Can I have them? Can I have them? He rolls his eyes at me when it's totally hot chick. And here I am. I'm probably, at that point, I was like probably 325 pounds or 340 pounds, short hair, but just a normal guy talking backstage with a couple guys. And it's just like, it's got to get old to them if you think about it, to where, can you just say hello?
Yeah.
You know, we don't all want you like that. Right. Now, maybe later we'll talk.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That day in, day out, constant attention, people pulling at you for something.
Yes.
Whether it's an autograph, a picture,
Slash, when he asked me not to take a picture.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Slash, see, this is a beautiful thing about this podcast. You have to listen for a while because all the stories come back around.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're not even like halfway done. But you mentioned that Slash told you his eyes were burnt out from taking snaps.
From all the flashes, even though he was wearing the sunglasses. But you do that for 50, 60 people.
That's amazing. Yeah. It really takes its toll on your physical. And then you get
the snaps during the show and the bright lights, even though the club was small, but it was, and then they go through that, it's like, man, I'm just tired. And then he was upset that none of the girls showed up from the topless bar.
Even rock stars get ghosted sometimes.
Yep.
First time I met Slash was when they were fairly brand new. At the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. They came up there, and this was when they would make the crowd wait 2 hours after their scheduled start time before they would come on stage.
Yeah.
And Slash came in to do the interview for the radio, completely wasted out of his mind with the Jack Daniels bottle in the hat, but he really was. And he sat there. I interviewed Slash's hair and his hat because you couldn't see his face. And he just sat there and he was mumbling answers. And meanwhile, our promotion director for the radio station I was working at the time was driving Axel from the airport to the venue, listening to the interview I was doing with Slash, and going out of his mind that Slash did the interview without him present because he knew what kind of shape Slash was in conducting himself and was angry. He thought he was making the band look bad. That's how that
didn't really help. It really helped the band.
Yeah,
then it didn't.
I was going to say, you don't want to sound like a real partying guy there when you're doing the rock and roll music.
On another radio station today, a talk station, they told me that Sweet Child of Mine had 100 million YouTube views.
A billion.
Is it a billion?
It's a billion.
Billion.
Wow.
Actually. And yet, these pop bands today have 8 billion.
Yep.
That haven't been around 30 years.
But then how many times did people listen to it before it was YouTube?
Sweet Child of Mine has 1 billion views. It is the first 80s era video to achieve 1 billion views. They also, Guns N' Roses, has a second one with 1 billion views from 1992, November Rain.
November Rain.
That's the second one.
See, I saw them in the Summit 2 nights in a row in about that year. And it was Soundgarden opening for him both nights, and it was great. And what I remember about the crew themselves that were doing this, I don't know if you were you at that? Do you remember that show, Tony?
I know what show you're talking about, but I saw them 5 years before that in the music hall. Opened up for the Cult.
Wow!
They played the entire album plus the 2 songs at the end. It's the best show I'd ever seen.
Wow!
Second best show I've ever seen to then.
Wow.
At
the Music Hall in 1987. And all the people were out in the lobby because none of them, all the cult fans didn't want to see Guns N' Roses.
That's amazing.
Really?
Now, also, I was a mini DJ in my house party type stuff, and I brought that Guns N' Roses album out, and I put it on in like October. That's right after they started to hit, and my buddy's sister goes, "Oh, that's too heavy for us. You got anything lighter?" So I picked up some lighter music. 6 months later, she comes up to me, "Hey, can you play that Sweet Child of Mine?" I said, I tried to play that for you 6 months ago, but you didn't want to hear it.
That's right. Prior to Guns N' Roses hitting, rock and roll was in a terrible state.
Yes.
It had gotten very, slow and electronic-y and just lame. Guns N' Roses
put some emphasis back into it. And that's what it was supposed to be. And then they started signing every band that looked like Guns N' Roses.
Right.
And that's what happens. Now you were talking about everybody has their phones. I have a picture with me and the singer from Faster Pussycat in like 1981.
Wow.
Backstage. Short hair. And I got a picture of it, and I started sweeping through it, and it's a picture of a picture. So I was showing it to him at Warehouse Live, and he's like, "Wow, that's 25 years ago. That's cool." Because he doesn't see anything. And they're a band that tours, but 200-300 people, if we're lucky, get to see them.
We're with Anthony. They call him Tone Man. Anthony Black, Tone Man, a staple in the Houston concert scene for decades. And, he's one of us. He's a Houstonian, and he's seen a lot. And we're just kind of going through some of his experiences. Now, you mentioned Soundgarden. What was your impression of Chris Cornell? Did you ever spend a lot of time getting to see him? Or
I heard from singers after he left Soundgarden that everybody idolized him and stuff. I've never really worked them close, but I did take pictures of them opening for Danzig.
Wow.
At the Unicorn Ballroom up on 59. And none of them came out because they were using this dark green light. So it was weird. But I got pictures of Danzig from that show. I got pictures of Guar there. I got pictures of, there was a local band, Dead Horse.
Yes,
was opening for Exodus. And the Exodus manager come up to me, "We don't want no pictures. We don't want to see your camera out." So the security, which was a friend of mine's, all his employees, took me up on stage and made me take pictures of Dead Horse in front of this guy. So funny. It's just sort of, and I don't know if Dead Horse ever got any bigger than Exodus, but Exodus never got any bigger. And why would you? I'm just a local photographer, just taking pictures. How am I going to make? I know people are devious and sell pictures, but I was never like that.
Yeah. You always had pictures, and over the years, you've been kind enough to give me several of them too. Of course, many of them were at times from adult film star conventions, but that was fine too.
Or outside the adult film.
I look at everything.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. This is, when you look at Tony and you talk about the things like that in these phones and taking pictures, how rare is it when you have some of these guys like Danzig? You're right. There's so many times in the 80s that he did shows, but nobody took a picture of that show. And to go back and show people like Faster Pussycat, hey, 25 years ago, because most people don't. Now, today's celebrities, they've had, Taylor Swift has always had someone taking pictures of her, and there's millions of pictures out there. So when she gets to be 80, she's going to be like, yeah, I know, that's just one of my pictures then. But these guys, that's a thing. And likewise, I liken Tony to having advanced Facebook type needs back then, because I remember when we would see you. I remember sitting at Area 51 with you one time, and it may have been around that Slash show right then, and you had your book. You had an actual picture book with you, and that's what you would show. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have social media for you to do that. You just were like, hey, look at these cool pictures I've taken over time, and it was a predecessor of all of that.
And he also had picks, always.
I do.
Guitar picks.
Yes.
I have the purest collection probably in the state of Texas.
Really?
Yes.
Such as? Describe. How many? How do you keep them?
I got them in a coin collector, sheets.
Yeah.
Because you have small picks, regular size picks, and then the bigger bass picks. And I sort them out, and I do them by bands, and I do them by colors, and I do them by genres.
Wow.
But I actually have a gallon-sized bag full of picks that are just in a
random.
bag.
They haven't even been cataloged yet.
No, they've just been gone through for doubles and stuff.
But
It's so time-consuming.
is that kind of memorabilia worth money on the open market or no?
It is, but you have to find that one person who wants this, wants that. And to me, that's why I give all my extras away. I keep one of everything.
It's nice.
So
Nice of you.
yeah.
And it's better as a collection, I'm sure. When you have the actual collection itself, that's what you're doing. You're not trying to make money off of it. You're just trying to collect for the memorabilia.
Now, Terry, you brought up Van Halen a little while ago, and you're right. They always are gracious. They are nice guys.
Yes.
I've come upon them as well, and Eddie and Alex were nice. I think Michael Anthony was with them when I met him, and he was super cool as well. Eddie, speaking of guitar picks, he actually questions whether or not his metal guitar picks that he uses, that some of them are copper, and I forget the other metal. He uses metal guitar picks.
He uses everything.
He stores them. He keeps them in his mouth, on his tongue.
He'd put them right here. He'd bite down kind of on him,
and
is what he would do, and keep them.
That's where the tongue cancer was. And he was suggesting that, who knows, maybe because of all the years I had the metal sitting there on my tongue, somehow it reacted and one thing led to another. And he's back being treated for throat now, cancer.
Yeah. Well, regardless to anybody, we all really end up with cancer. And a lot of people don't realize unless you are going in looking for it, you're never going to find it. And I've had friends pass away, and I hear from their siblings. My mom, she was doing great. She was 75 years old. She refloored the floor last year, and now she can't even get out of bed. Because guess what? Cancer had been sitting there 5, 6, 7 years, and then it shows up.
That's what it does.
Now, that's the thing. We're looking for that because that's what he did. But how do you know it wasn't a cell phone that caused the brain tumor?
Absolutely right. It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
And it's I have friends that are substance abused, and now they're not, but they fill it with something else. I collect everything in the world. I have Hot Wheels, I have toy trains, I have lighthouses, I have Coca-Cola stuff. I have more Coca-Cola stuff than a Coca-Cola store has, and they're all collectible.
How interesting! Learning things about Tone Man that you didn't know.
Movie posters. I see like 3 movies a week when there's good movies, not when there's crap. I don't like horror movies because horror movies, I usually pick them apart before I get scared. Like the last It movie, the first one that was like 2 years ago. I was scared 3 times in 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah. What
was more funny was the guy who showed up at the midnight movie who was drunk. And then he passed out, and we took pictures of him sleeping.
Telling some old rock and roll stories with Tone Man from upstaging, a Houston staple for a long time around these parts. Let's go down some of the lists and almost rapid fire, but, tell us your experiences with Queensryche, for example. Was it with Jeff Tate, Queensryche?
Yes, that was way back in the day. It was like 87. They were opening for AC/DC. 87, 88, 89. And I was up in the front, 3rd row. I think I bought a scalp ticket. It wasn't too bad. And I'm up there, and he's singing Take Hold the Flame, which he doesn't do anymore. And I was the only one singing with him. So he goes to the other side of the stage. He comes back. I'm still singing. And the reason I put this down, that was my first taste of rock and roll. Because when I was still singing with him, he turns around, walks away, he stops, and gives me a thumbs up to me. So I'm like, okay, I did something special. That was cool. That was my first story of close to greatness, I think.
How interesting is that? So were you always a rock guy, music guy when you came from Pennsylvania?
Yes.
How'd you get to Houston?
And a 70 Dodge Dart.
Who drove you?
Packed me. I think I was 19.
They call those things swingers.
No, that was a 2-door.
The 2-door was a swinger?
Or the Demon, the Plymouth Demon.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There you go.
Heck yeah.
But with my record collection, my stereo,
What brought you here? I mean, at 19 in a Dodge Dart, just go until the gas ran out?
Got out of technical school for drafting. My brother said, come down here. And then within the first week, I had 2 interviews. I didn't have 2 interviews in 6 months up north. So, and it was just a better place to be for the time being. And then you see how it goes. And then I made some friends, and I made some more friends. And I had another friend from another radio station. He was a DJ on KPFT, public radio. And then he had a couple things in the magazine. I'd go to shows. I started covering shows for him. So I just did a little bit of everything. I'm still friends with him. We've been friends 34 years. I've been down here 35.
Wow.
Well, when did we first meet? I came to Houston in 89 doing Outlaw Radio. It couldn't have been much after that.
No, but I know it wasn't right away.
It wasn't right away. No. Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we met.
I just sent him pictures from the old days.
Yeah, I see it. He's got a picture of me with hair.
Oh, nice.
He's got a picture of me getting a tattoo for a trading card, which was really, that wasn't even a real tattoo that I was getting. It was a setup tattoo.
Oh, I remember the trading card. We had the little baseball card that you had. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Grego
a
with hair.
terrible photo.
I
should have shaved it years ago. But, one thing about you that I carry with me, if anybody ever asked me about Toneman, he's a great guy. I've never seen you crossways, short, angry. I mean, I'm sure it happens, but you just don't put that face forward.
I try. I'm Italian, so I get hot. Sometimes I get upset, but usually 3 seconds later, I'm back to cool. I'm never beating the crap out of stuff.
Well, that's what you need in this kind of situation when you've got a deadline and you've got a show and things have to happen. That's the kind of people that need to be around at that, because
I'm more about laughing.
Yeah.
I used to watch comedy shows from morning to night. Repeats.
I was watching The Office the other night, just laughing my ass off.
So after 35 years in Houston, you're still trying to decide whether or not it's a good place to stay, I guess.
Oh, no, it's way better than shoveling snow.
Amen, brother.
Yes, I hated it. But I used to run in my bare feet in the snow every once in a while just to prove we were tough.
Oh, boy.
Woo. Ace Frehley of Kiss.
That was
Houston, are you ready?
That was one of the first shows I ever did security on.
Yeah?
Yeah, and he was leaning over me. I'm kneeling on the stage right. By the way, my eardrums, I couldn't hear for 3 days because his side fill was right there. And he's leaning over me, and people were trying to crawl over me to touch him. If they just touched his leg, they thought you think they could live for 100 years. And it made me realize what fans and admirers of music, there's a separation. There's a few fans that are fans for life. Yeah, I like the band. Now, when I hear Kiss, it has to be a certain song. Aerosmith, I turn off the radio. Led Zeppelin, ZZ Top.
You turn off the radio.
Or change the channel.
You change the channel to Aerosmith. Why?
I had pretty much a bad taste.
Why?
Because they were hard shows to set up. We used to set up a B stage for them.
Well, that wasn't Steven Tyler's fault.
Yeah, it was when it rained and they decided not to do that. Or when they walk out and they go, look what we built for you. No, dude, we built it. Reba McEntire did that at the rodeo. She said, whatever year she started, 19, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes, was good for country music and you, because that's when I came out. Really? Does your head fit in the tour bus?
Wow.
So, but there are nice people that work with Aerosmith, like my buddy, the guitar tech.
Now, you mentioned ZZ Top.
It's just because I've heard them so much. I listened to them back in Pennsylvania. And when I saw them here in Houston, when they did 3 shows, it was late 80s, they sold more tickets in Pittsburgh than they did here. Pittsburgh's only 500,000 people. Here it's 3 back then, 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
In your hometown, I couldn't see it. But I've seen that where it's like King's X. They don't do well here. They do well out of here. It's sort of, but now I've realized that where I'm from, because you don't know what makes it big or not.
What about the band Accept? You have this down here.
That was the second security job I did. Yeah. And I see all these people out in the audience at Hurricane Alley. And I go, where are all you people the rest of the time? Because none of them. There was like 20 people there who were there on the weekends. I'm like, where are you people at? You're the reason rock and roll doesn't succeed. And I had friends would tell me, well, the old rock crowd isn't that cool anymore. Well, I've never left the rock crowd.
Right.
I've always been in somewhere, so.
Now, was Hurricane Alley the venue where Vince Neil showed up late?
No, that was Equinox.
Okay.
Where I used to work, but I wasn't there because I was in Dallas with a porn star. And I got told that I would work every show after that because the way they handled the security, and he acted like an ass.
Yes. So the Vince Neil show, it wasn't Motley Crue. It was
Vince Neil.
It was Vince Neil.
He had gone to Rick's.
And he was there, and it was 10, and it was 11, and it might have even been midnight. I had to leave the venue, if you remember. Well, you weren't there.
I weren't there.
I was there with my now wife, Tammy. We actually met there and spent some time together. But
who I knew before Grego did.
You knew my wife, Tammy, before me.
Yes.
That's right, because she used to hang around with Hollister Fracas. And that crew.
Hollister Fracas.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're still together. It's called Mad Sons now.
It's called Mad Sons.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't realize that you were running with that crowd too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She was a beautiful girl back then. She's still beautiful, but I mean, she was a looker. She used to date the lead singer of Mad Sons or Hollister Fracas, Jason. Yeah, Jason Morgan. Sure.
Who's also bald now because he shaved his head.
Because she wore us out.
Yeah.
But I remember that night when Vince Neil, and it was a big to-do. So do you remember what happened? He actually jumped off the stage and started punching people.
Or tried to punch people.
Yeah.
And then the security got into it with a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. And they said that they would do a show if I wasn't there. These are Middle Eastern people that trust me more than they trust anybody else.
Sure. Sure. Well, it speaks to your responsibility and the way you do your job, What about Barenaked Ladies?
That's a good one. Great band. I've seen them from the Revention to the Woodlands, to not sell out the Woodlands, to back to the Woodlands again. But at the Verizon back in the day, their techs were they saw the open floor. They're like, oh man. So they got out their gear and we played roller hockey during their sound check. We were running around in our bare feet or our shoes playing street hockey with guys who played roller hockey while the singer was making up songs about us doing it. Oh, that was great.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so it was just a great band. And then they had the song where everyone it's not macaroni and cheese. If I had $1 million, well, everyone would throw macaroni and cheese at the audience.
Oh boy!
There's a band called Lord Tracy out of Dallas. He used to be the lead singer of Pantera before he went to Lord Tracy, and the best bass player in the world.
I did not know that Lord Tracy's singer was the lead singer.
Yeah, Terry Lee of Pantera.
Wow.
Yeah.
That goes back when they were doing hair metal before Phil Anselmo.
Yeah, but it was like Judas Priest almost. It was hard rocking, but it wasn't. Yeah. But it was good. They used to play Cardi's at Westheimer 4 nights a week, 5 sets a night, 4 sets a night. But they were the only band I saw with wireless microphones and stuff. Local band with wireless stuff.
Yeah.
Before it was cool.
Yeah. Now you bring up Pantera. Now everybody that lives in Texas pretty much has a Dimebag story or a Vinnie Paul story. Okay, come on.
So it goes back to Van Halen. I'm friends with the guitar tech. He gave me some picks. In fact, I left that concert with giving everybody picks. I left with 96 guitar picks in my pocket.
Wow.
Because I went back and he didn't get bothered, the guitar tech. I made friends with him. We stayed in touch off and on for a couple of years. But so I had saved some picks for their drum tech, Kat, who was Vinny's drum tech. And so they're playing Numbers, Damage Plan, just 3 weeks before the shooting.
Yeah.
And he takes me up onto the bus, and I'm friends with the other guitar tech. and who I know through STP before they got big.
Wow.
Or after they got big, yeah. But anyhow, so we're all sitting in there, and he's showing him my Eddie Van Halen pics. He goes, "Where'd you get those?" He goes, "Man, I got my connections." He goes, "Well, fuck you." Well, he goes, "Sorry, guys. Can we say that on
It's
this?
a podcast.
It's a
You can
podcast.
cuss. Yeah, it's a podcast.
So he goes, "No, fuck you." So they go back and forth. And he goes, "Well, last week I played with Eddie, so fuck you."
Yeah. Dime was always
And
so cool.
Once with Phil, when he was playing at backstage, we were back there, and my buddy was singing Manowar, and Phil chimed in, and because he knew the same song, it was just one of those cool little moments, you know. And I did security for that show, and I had to Al Bundy some kid up against the wall because he got up on stage when my back was turned. He was in front the whole time. He was cool. He gets up there, makes an ass out of you. So you remember Al Bundy when he would walk boys to the door? He'd hit the door frame. He did that, and then he went down the stairs and backstage.
Yeah. And you know, some of these clubs that these bands go into, and for instance, the Al Rosa Villa up in Columbus, Ohio, where Dimebag was shot and Mayhem, their security guy, was killed on that stage along with him. That place was a dump. Because I worked in Columbus and I got to go to that club. And when I got there to see this is the place where Dimebag died, I said to myself, they should never have been.
Well, they were playing numbers.
Yeah.
They had played the Verizon before that, and they came back. We were all over at the stadium, and I went over there. And then the guitar tech that I was telling you I knew, he says, "Man, we got some." I said, "Well, we got this big gig over at the stadium." So he goes, "You gonna be here for the hour?" I said, "Yeah, I can donate you an hour." And he goes, "No, you don't have to do it." So I show up, went out to eat, got some, came back, got some of the show. I go, "I'm ready." He goes, "You kidding me?" He goes, and I said, "No." So we became friends. And he was one of these guys who didn't give out guitar picks. I said, "That's all it's going to cost you is some guitar picks." He gave me a whole handful.
Wow.
And that, you know, so in fact, the night he got shot, I traded a couple of those Dimebag picks to a poster guy for whatever pop show was playing at the place I'm working at today.
Now, did the guitar tech take a bullet?
The drum tech took 3 for Vinny.
And did he pass away? No, he made it.
He made it.
Yeah.
So it's funny. And, you know, everyone says Dime was one of those guys who liked to drink and everything. But if you didn't drink, that was cool with him, you know. So he didn't force it on you.
Mm-hmm. Now, they had that bar up in Dallas, right? That
The clubhouse?
The clubhouse that they would hang out at.
Yeah.
People would go and party till wee hours of the morning up at that place. They were always fun. Had a great time. And I've never been to his house, but I was told that Vinny had a Crown Royal bottle-shaped pool at the back of his house.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, you know. But
money will do that to you.
Yeah. Access to excess.
You can buy something like that. Yeah.
But when you go back to the shooting of Pantera, you know, the crazy thing, like I walked into that town and it hadn't happened, but maybe a year and a half prior, and it was still very fresh. I actually wound up meeting the Columbus police officer and becoming friends with the guy that had to take Nathan Gale out, who shot him. And that officer gave the detailed story on our radio show. He walked into that club. He got the call that there was a shooting. He walked in. He had a shotgun, and he had to make a decision as to whether to pull the trigger to stop the shooting that was going on stage, knowing that there was a good chance he was going to hit somebody else, an innocent bystander.
Yeah,
in the
which I believe more in the average cop's view than the people who are trying to stop them from helping 15 people from getting shot. What's it called when you're in war? Friendly fire. You know, friendly fire. If you catch a pellet and you see the person who did it is taken out, I think you would be happy.
Sure.
But somebody else would try and sue the police, which is what happens, which is why something needs to be done with everything. I was going to make a thing one time up at Equinox. I was anti-politically correctness stuff, something non-vegan, because that seemed to be where it was all going 20 some years ago.
Yes.
So it makes me, I have a prosthetic leg. My first prosthetic leg was a camo shirt, and it had Broken Teeth, the band that I like, who played my wedding.
Yeah.
Who's the singer, who was the minister.
Right.
Going back and forth again. Yeah. But still, everyone would ask me, especially older people would ask me, hey, are you a veteran? I said, no, but I support the troops. My brother was in the Navy 10 years. We support, I don't like what they're doing to the people that are in the veterans, but they're starting to clear that up now.
Yeah. Now you bring up your prosthetic leg, so you open the door. I'm going to ask, tell people what happened, because Tone Man, he's an upstaging guy. He's a stagehand. He moves equipment around. Now he manages, right? You point your finger mostly now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know what happened. You can tell me, but
I got hungry. I ate my leg.
Last time I saw you were this is new to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What happened?
It was diabetes, and I had a little ulcer, is what they call them, and it moved to the side of my foot. I'm thinking, well, I can take care of this. I bandage it every morning, cleaned it, taking antibiotics. But I actually went to the hospital twice for my diabetes, and they never found it because I never said anything. And it's my fault that I'm like this, but I take responsibility, and I've even run Spotlight for the Rockets in a wheelchair during the playoffs back in 2015.
So the moment they tell you you're going to lose your leg, what?
I had to choose between my foot and my leg. And it took me 2 days to make the decision. I had to make it in 2 days. And I chose the leg because I just figured it would be better. And I think I heard over time that when they take just a little bit, they end up taking more. And when I went to my first doctor's appointment a couple weeks later, she told me that it's a good thing we went for the leg because we'd had to go back.
Oh.
So, but like I said, 4 days after I got out of the hospital, quit taking any painkillers. When I went to my first prosthetic thing, they have walk bars set up, so I'm in my wheelchair. They go, can you walk across the things? And I hop up, go 4 steps this way, turn around, come 4 steps back. They go, we're going to have to get that on video because to prove to your insurance for what you do for your living that you're going to need a better foot. And I didn't get the better foot until, I think it might have been the first day I had to wait like 3 days. March 3rd, I made it to my first gig, and I walked into Steve Lawler's office, and he was amazed that I was walking on a walker. It wasn't even 2 months.
Yeah.
So, and then I walked 2 days later with my walker like a cane in my yard because I wasn't afraid of falling. And then the week after, I started driving, and I quit using a walker to get around the car. I would hop, throw the walker in the trunk. I mean, my wheelchair in the trunk. And I'd either use my hand to balance and hop around. My legs are really big and strong.
Yeah. I mean, really a tribute to your, number one, your fortitude, your physical strength.
Yeah, I had to get back.
And your attitude.
Yes. And that's what it is. 98% attitude.
Yeah, I told Terry yesterday that, I said, he had lost his leg. And I believe I had it right. It was diabetes. Yeah. But I never saw you miss a step, dude.
Yeah, I would even... Mad Sons, I went to one of their shows. He goes, Jason pointed out, now that's rock and roll. When you show up in a wheelchair and you're in the front. So I used to give him crap about. I'd always show up and say something smart to him.
Yeah. Get your hands off Grego's old lady.
No, it was like, have you guys played yet? It was always one of those, oh, you're on? I got to go.
Yeah. And that's funny about Tony, too. He's come to a couple of the Something Obnoxious shows, my little cover band, and he's fun to see in the crowd, but at times he's not a guy you really want to look at because you have seen so many shows that you're not what I would call easily impressed. Yeah. So as the front man,
I am not singing with you.
Yeah, you're up there, you're doing your thing, and you look at his face, and he's just like looking at you, and.
He's like the front 3 rows at the Grammys, and just nobody, like, oh yeah, we've all seen this. We're the one that put you up here.
Exactly. I know Grego. He's not a singer. I know that. I am not. But I'm trying to entertain.
I know. I saw you backstage at the Hyatt downtown.
Oh, at the
Hilton. The Hilton.
Talking about the holiday ball?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. You went to some holiday balls,
now,
didn't you?
that is absolutely off limits for this interview.
and that's where we'll stop that conversation.
And that's how me and snuck liquor back into the hotel via guitar cases.
So Eddie Van Halen's picks, do you actually have some of the metal ones? That's my question about that. Do you have any of the metal ones that he has?
No, I don't, but I have Def Leppard metal picks.
Okay.
I do have... Ministry had a copper one. I have some Slayer that I pulled out of the blood. Wasp out of the blood.
Nice.
I have some Super Bowl picks from Bush, Tom Petty.
Oh, wow.
I was doing a Bush show. Me and the truck driver traded picks a couple years before. And he went up to his guy and he says, hey, do you have any picks? And he goes, it was early on in the tour. And he goes, no, we don't have any. So I'm setting up the barricade by myself, He comes along. He says, hey, I know this isn't a Bush pick. Can this help your... Yeah, just went to number 3. It was Adam from U2. Super Bowl pick. Adam Clayton.
Wow.
It's just like, it's how you get them, not why I get them. It's cool. And I'm like, and I'm never the guy asking for 20. Hey, whatever you got. Saliva played Numbers. And the guy knew it was a gay club. So he made a rainbow of picks on the thing. And he says, only me and you know what this is for. Nobody in the band knows. Yeah. And the crowd shouldn't know. So, but I got one of every one of them, and and I saw him this summer and I go, but it's sort of funny how you keep in touch. And, Grand Funk Railroad, the guy gave me a bunch of picks. And I said, oh, thanks, And he goes, where's that security guard at? Oh, I gave him some picks. Oh, you gave him some picks? Here, take some more. And that's generally how it works. I've been there with Willie Nelson, his old stage manager. He'd always give out some picks to everybody. And then I said, hey, I've been giving a bunch out. Can I have some more? He says, sure. And he gives you more because he knows you're not lying.
Yeah.
And I used to set up all the guitar worlds for the rodeo. I had power for them and stuff. No, because I'm like a shark. I'm either swimming or you're dead. So I have to be moving or I want to take a nap. Yeah. So that's pretty much. Yeah. So I was always there. I went to see Styx the other day. I know everybody in the crew. I went down there, got a couple picks, ate lunch with them. Me and the guy talked. One of the guys passed away who was the original drum tech for Rush.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Before Neil calls him up and says, hey, buddy, I'm starting another band. Come check us out. He did the first 8 albums with him or something.
Wow.
He's in the center. He's in the center thing.
Yeah.
But you hear stuff. Everything's good. AC/DC. We were talking about that earlier. I got to change out the speaker cones in Angus Young's guitar cabinets.
Oh, wow.
And show me you can test them with a 9-volt battery. If they thump, they're still good. If they don't, they're
dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? You learned that from...
Takumi is a guitar tech. Now he's with Nickelback, and he does other bands.
Wow. So, yeah, you mentioned it earlier, but now it's coming into focus that it's a small, tight fraternity of guys that do this work.
Yep. And I used to load trucks. So for a while there, I was the world's most famous loader because people would talk about me. They'd come back from being on vacation in Mexico. Hey, I ran into somebody that knew you or this. And I bought a bunch of Mongoose bike racing gloves to use as gloves. They were $1 a piece. I got them at the dollar store. I bought 40 of them. I sold them to everybody just for $1. I didn't try to make money. I just, and somebody ran into a truck driver in Europe that he's with the WWE, my buddy. And he ran into a truck driver in Europe that knew me.
You're famous around the world, not just Houston.
Yeah.
Now, that
and I've never been there.
That brings up an interesting point too. You've done a lot of. Have you ever done anything with the WWE? Do you do stuff with them as well? Since that's a show. I was
a cable page. I was there before The Rock got big.
You mean
I was
like big,
popular,
or big?
Popular. We were in
he used to be a scrawny little man.
We were in the dressing room, and the producer girl, she was about tiny. He says, "We want you to pick up this massage bench and throw it back down on the ground." He goes, "Well, how heavy is it?" And she picks it up, and she sets it down. She goes, "Now I'm this little tiny person, and you're this giant guy." So that was the little story. And then I came out of the room, and I'm coiling the cable. I hit another wrestler in the chest. He looks at me. I look at him. I go back to my job. And then when later on, when we were running down the hall, me and the camera guy, and they go, "TV coming through," everyone splits to the walls. You're the most important thing, the TV guy. And I'm the guy
You were pulling the cable.
I never thought about that. I never thought about that being a thing, but I guess that is because they would have to run down there with the...
I've been in a couple of the things with Vince McMahon and Stephanie McMahon. Mm-hmm. And for a while there, I got recognized by Vince, one of the richest guys in the world too. He'd sit there and give you that like he knows you. I got that from a few people. Like Ronnie James do a few years after I hadn't seen him. I was driving a forklift backstage at the Woodlands. He's playing with Heaven and Hell. He looks up, he sees me, he waves to me. Gave him a little wave back. He nodded because he remembered me from like 4 years before that.
Do you keep a Facebook page that people...
No,
you don't?
It's just a regular...
You just have a regular account?
Yeah. I've thought about it. We've thought about cataloging my pictures. And
yeah, would you ever write a book?
That's what people say. You ought to write a book. And I would have never thought to do this, but you brought it up, and I wasn't really excited about it. And I kept thinking about it. It took me about 8 days. And that's when I decided I'm going to give him a call, and I just didn't call you for a couple of days, and then I called you back.
No, I definitely think that,
I can't put pen to paper. I would have to have a ghostwriter or somebody write it with me, because I was a straight A student in high school, never took a book home. I'm just generally smart guy. I like to say I'm SM art.
Yeah.
Most people get it. Some people don't.
Yeah.
Then you have to explain it to them.
Yeah.
But I just I learn from everything. If I knock my head on the door, I know to move my head a little bit. If I do something, and I use everything as a learning experience. I went to jail once for knocking somebody on their ass at Area 51 after a Hollister Fracas show.
Imagine that.
And how did you go to jail? Weren't you security?
It doesn't matter. You can't put your hands on people.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
So how are you security then?
How do you get people out?
Job?
Well, there's licensed security and unlicensed security, and it depends on how or what. Now, I could have had, because the guy insulted me, and I turned around and pushed him, and he went flying, lost a couple teeth or loosened them. But that's not viable. Now, if they put their hands on you, you can self-defense.
I see.
He put his foot in the door, and I kept him there for about 5 minutes. And I said, "Hey, let me go find the band." And then he called me a fat fuck. And nah, you don't call me that.
Right.
Not like a chicken shit when you're walking away.
Right.
So I got him on the ground. I flipped him over. I said, "I'll parking lot before I finish the job."
Mm-hmm.
I've never been able to beat somebody but there's a few times when I've gotten close.
Wow. You're pushed.
Yeah. But I always handle myself to where it doesn't get out of hand.
So you're supposed to take Metallica security. I heard they leave blood behind after.
Nah.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's all hearsay or what people talk.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I have two questions. Number one, what was the...
Banana.
Correct.
Okay.
What was the worst injury you ever sustained while doing your job?
It was a broken finger. This finger right here.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Oh my.
Boy.
It's not supposed to bend that way.
It doesn't bend that way.
It already did that before, but this is from childhood. This one bends a little bit, but not as bad. But anyhow, it's full function. Some guy, a band was at Hurricane Alley, was complaining about a guy getting paid. Well, the guy who would pay them was checking out the other clubs to see how they were doing.
wasn't there.
Wasn't there. So when Paul gets back, he'll take care of it. When Paul gets back, he'll take care of it. Now, Paul just got me into the Tora show the other day up at BFE because he's still doing it.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we...
Walk-in shoes.
Yeah. Walk-in shoes. And
what was the other one?
that wasn't Danger. No, that was Danger was a song.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so they had this one guy who was big, and he was just tall. He wasn't a big guy. And the other guy was helping me, the other door guy. And we're trying to shush out like 6 or 8 people out the side door. And he wouldn't go. So I just picked him up, and he's beating my hand with his fist as I'm carrying him and broke my finger. And then me and David, we put the bar on the door so they couldn't get back in. And me and George, who was the manager of most of those clubs, we all 3 of us went out front and stopped 15 people from coming in the door.
Wow.
Because they're used to getting their own way. Well, with me, that doesn't work. I did it at a Rage Against the Machine show where they started coming over the wall at the Energy Arena.
Yeah.
It was Reliant Arena back then or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that was 20 years ago. And I had moved one of those pieces of pipe that go between the railing backstage because it was out in the audience. So I was just walking around, and I took it back there, and I said, there's a we'll get it and close there. And I'm pushing people back up the stairs. To me, they're cheating the system. When you're cheating me and making me work, that's when I take offense. And when I saw my supervisor for Southwest Security see what was going on and go the opposite direction, I said, there's enough people in the barricade. I can go out and help. So I was throwing people back into the crowd. And one time at White Zombie at the Summit, I was going through and somebody kicked me. And I went up to 4 of them. I said, I know it was one of you 4. If I ever find out who it was, you're done. 4 people, some of them bigger than me. But that's what happens when you assert and you put out the pheromones, because I've had hot chicks that want to take you home right then, but you got to work for an hour and a half.
Right.
And guess what? They're gone by then.
Right. Yeah. Because you were serious.
I do my stuff. Yeah. There was one time in Cinderella.
Love Cinderella.
At Hurricane Alley. And there was this guy starting a mosh pit. And he kept doing it. I leapt over the crowd 10 feet from the stage and got him and drug him and was fixing to walk him out the door. And the sheriff's department came up and grabbed me by the neck. Said, you better settle down, pal. I said, really? You know I'm working for the club. He goes, so are we. Guess what? I was still working for the club. They no longer used the Harris County Sheriff's Department.
Now, you said White Zombie. I remember there were some bringing back Pantera as well. I remember a show at the Summit that was it was 3 bands. It was a band. I don't remember who it was. It was then it was White Pantera and then White Zombie. I can't remember which order they played in. The first band was horrible. They were the worst band ever. Everybody like booed them off stage. They were like, "You suck. You're horrible." The singer got like visibly mad at the audience for not liking them at all. They're like, "Boo, you suck." Then it proceeded to be 2 of the most raging mosh pits I had ever seen. It was me and I think either Jerry or Todd, and we were working that event
from 101.
From 101, yeah. Jerry Kirksey or Todd Green, and we went over and had we were on the lower prom of the place, and when they broke, we were supposed to go and take people backstage and meet each one, and it was like a war zone. We had to walk through the from one lower prom to the other to get backstage, and there were just people just on the edge, just sitting there like holding their ribs, like this was the worst mosh pit they had ever. Have you? I mean, was that now?
I wasn't at that show. But I was at Slayer, Judas Priest. No. Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax.
Whoa.
And I was down front, second row. I held my own until I can't remember if it was Megadeth or Slayer, but that's all I could stand. And I'm a big guy. I was a big guy back then. Oh. So, and it's a lot of, and No Chemicals. nothing but soda in my vein. You know,
right.
So, but that was tough. It was, you know.
Some of those are Now, have you met White? I remember meeting the band, and all of the band for White Zombie came out, and they were very nice. The bassist was a girl. She was particularly nice, and they were like, they would sit and talk with us. But Rob didn't come out. Like later on, he came out, and we saw him, and he sat in this one roped off area, and he ate, and he just kind of stared at everyone and ate, and then he went off. And there was nothing wrong. I mean, it was still cool,
I've heard that he likes like sort of country music.
Way.
He likes, they would take his family to see the Dixie Chicks and stuff.
Wow.
That's what you hear. You know, I don't know if it's true, but I can see it. But then he does House of 1,000 Corpses and stuff like that. And you can do both. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We all do something over here. We all do something back here. We hide stuff that we don't want other people to know. Then you let it out and then everything's cool and stuff, you know, but, I was trying to say something, and it was about Rob Zombie, and then it cued something in my head that I forgot.
Well, we had seen him. We had gone to... Go ahead.
Rob Zombie, White Zombie, and Anthrax at the West Park Amphitheater. This is a visual cue for you people on the other side of the radio, but for Anthrax, the pit was 90 miles an hour.
Up
and for
and down.
Rob Zombie, it was 20 miles an hour. And I sort of watched the crowd, and that's what I would do is I watch. I worked a Wasp show back in '98. I was stagehand, and I was working for my buddy who owned a record store, Diamond Head Records. It's no longer there, but he's still playing. And I'm sitting there looking at all these people, and there's this big, gargantuan guy. Had to be at least 6'3", 3 foot wide at the shoulders, and I was like, man, that guy's trouble. And he was being loud. So I went over to the cops. I said, hey, how you guys doing? I'm Tony. I'm sort of the head bouncer security here today, blah, blah, blah. And then they go, okay, yeah. I said, everything looks pretty cool except that this one guy over here, this huge guy, I see him being a problem. Next thing you know, we're doing the show. I'm looking around. I don't see him. I go up to the cops afterwards. He go, hey, what happened to that guy? He said, believe it or not, that guy lit a joint right 8 feet in front of us. So he was gone before the show even started.
That was his ticket out.
But that's me
ahead of time.
Looking for problems.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And I solve problems.
I don't know that I ever understood that your job was at that point as physical as it was, you know?
It was more physical in the 90s. And then through the years, it gotten less and less. Now they let the guys come over, you know, sometimes they let them come over once and then they give them a warning, you know.
And you have to be more aware of the way you're handling situations because of sue happy individuals.
Yes,
and,
it can be anything.
Everything is different today.
Even at where our safety, we wear hard hats, bright vests on all the gigs, blah, blah, blah. So
different.
Yep.
Now, what about my hero, the guy I want to be when I get older? That's how I want to retire, just like Ozzy. Have you ever come into contact with Ozzy and had any interaction with him or his circus of fans, crew, family?
But the time when Ozzy and Pantera were playing at the Summit, my buddy was the Rock Doc, and that's when they were still, he goes, you would not believe the pills that are backstage. You know,
the Rock Doc.
The Rock Doc. I remember the Rock Doc.
There's different Rock Docs for everything.
There was.
It's a lot less noticeable now. Everything.
Did you see a lot of drug use in your...
No, but there was a lot of drug use. Not actual drugs, but there was a lot of cocaine and weed.
That's not an actual drug.
Yeah.
Neither of those are actual.
No, they aren't. But when you're up for 3 days, then it tends to hurt your performance. And it did on certain people. So you learn to work around it.
Yeah.
So
I remember being at backstage when Rat played there.
I didn't go to that show either because it was packed.
It was packed. And after the show, I want to say it was Warren DeMartini before he passed away. Came up to me after the show because I guess he remembered I was with the radio station. He's like, hey, man, where can I get some Coke?
He was at backstage. He should have known. It's right there. I think they have a dispenser still.
That wasn't my thing,
It was one of
man.
those
I was
machines.
like, I can't help you. And he just wandered off into the crowd.
And I used to know all the truck drivers, and they would come up and ask me, and I'd go, I can't tell you, but I know somebody who can help you. I would come introduce them.
Right. Because they wanted to stay awake is what it was,
Yeah.
right? Because they were going to drive. Those guys that load those trucks to go to the next city, they drive all night long, right?
Yeah, but they're supposed to be sleeping during the day.
But the chances are they're not.
No, now they are. It's
different.
Changed.
Everything is different.
Yeah, after the whole Tracy Morgan accident as well, too. That was another one of those where they you could tell they were watching all that. This guy had been 8 hours and 15 minutes or something. I mean, they're exact on. I assume that they follow that with truck drivers that do this for the music as well.
Yeah, they do it. Yeah, they have to do so many hours. Then there's overdrives, and it's all
Electronic logbooks.
Yeah.
And
Is there just one truck driver per, or do they have several truck drivers going on at one time?
Drivers flown in for an overdrive, and sometimes when there's from Texas, it's far to anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
From here to El Paso is just as far as it is from here
To Florida.
to Memphis.
Oh,
right.
yeah, to Memphis, yeah.
Yeah, you go through 3 or 4 states.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here you're in one state. And I've done that drive after being up 12 hours. I drove from here to Tucson in one clip.
That's a long drive.
That's like 13, 14 hours
We were
right there.
going
At
to
least.
LA. It was our first time going to LA.
Well, I'll tell you what, I could sit here and as we continue to speak, different stories come back to you, and we could talk all day, but I think it's just an interesting profession that you don't really hear a lot about.
Yes.
Which was why I had the idea to sit down with a Houston staple.
And you don't get to know everybody like we've gotten to know Tony over the years. The thing is that a lot of local crew and a lot of people that are backstage are just that. They're backstage. You somehow are special in the fact that we always got to know you. We always saw you somewhere. It was be at the front side of the stage, or running area 51, or just the various places I remember seeing you at. Summit, Astrodome, just various places over time, and even the smaller ones, the Eyeball, the Unicorn, the little places that you would be at over time. It is an interesting career, and it's a career you've done for as long as we've done this. I mean, this is what you've done, and you've been parallel to us the whole time with this music industry as we're playing the music and then coming over to see the shows of the people we're playing. There you are, setting it up, making it happen every time, and making it go on time, even if the band doesn't show up on time or doesn't want to be there on time. You've got it ready to go, and then you have to stay until the end, even if the band went on 2 hours late and put on a 2-hour late show. There you are at 4 a.m., loading out. I remember seeing you when we'd get there. I remember seeing you when we'd have to tear down stuff and leave some of the fall jams and things like that we would be at. And it's like, wow, that's a great career,
Tone Man is everywhere, including when you least expect it. He was staring at my butt while I was getting my back tattoo at Scorpion. How did you wind up there, and why?
The guy working
And feel
with,
free to compliment my butt to whoever wants
it
to
was
know
nice
about
and
it.
firm. But I had
you two have
I
a
had
moment.
a young stage hand girl slap me on the butt today while I was talking to her sister, and she goes, "Wow, that's hard."
Yeah, your butt is worked. You got muscles in there.
I have muscles.
All those years of squatting equipment.
And that's what did it. Pretty much, yeah.
Hell yeah.
If 2 guys couldn't lift a case, I could. I could do it by myself.
Yeah, I was getting tattooed, and all of a sudden I opened my eyes, and I don't know why you were there.
I was there with the guy. He was with Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy.
Fluffy!
Yes.
That's right.
I love him.
he had read about that place, and we had gone down the strip, and we walk in, and there's Grego.
I'm in agony getting my back done, and he's making jokes. And
well, he's with Gabriel Iglesias. What do you expect? I mean, he's going to make jokes. I don't think Fluffy was getting a tattoo, though.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't there.
No, it was one of his guys.
One of his guys.
Okay.
Yeah. And Tone Man was making jokes and stuff, and I just couldn't even muster up enough energy to laugh.
My favorite Grego moment was he was playing on the B stage out at the Woodlands, and I walked up to him and I mouthed, "I am not your bitch anymore," because I was holding up the Outlaw Dave shirt. I got an Outlaw Dave shirt. I said, "I'm not your bitch anymore."
You changed your allegiance, you son of a gun. You. All right, the interview's over. That's it.
We're done.
Tone Man, rock and roll legend in Houston, baby. Thanks for coming in, man.
Good times.
Right. Thank you, man.
Talk to you. That's fun.
Yep. We can go on for hours now.
Oh, man, I tell you. Thank you very much.
My jaw hurts from smiling.
That's fucking great, dude. We were on for long.
I don't know. I stopped being able to.
Okay, let's take summer inventory. Vacations, cancel. Weddings, postpone. BBQs, BB maybe later. It might seem like summer 2020 is a bit off, but with Uber Eats, summer is very much on. California rolls are on, sea salted caramel ice cream is on, the best BBQ is on. Summer is on Uber Eats. See app for availability.